go ahead and get started.
Okay. Afternoon. All good. Yeah, pleased with how these guys have been playing. After 6 weeks, they've done a great job of everything we've asked them to do. Studying, getting better, practicing hard, and so we're anxious for the second part of the season. And I think that's the big key, is this is just one half of the season. And got a really good start. And now, now there's no hiding from anybody. And we'll see if we can continue to play good football.
Don't you find it a little sad that we can't ask you about when you're going to be in Oregon? That's already.
Yeah. I really don't find that sad. Yeah, I mean, I think that's, that's a good thing to not have to talk about, certainly around here, for sure.
How much, you mentioned having the target on your back in some ways, second half of the year, how much does the dynamic change for you as the head coach, knowing that you're now going to have that bullseye on you everywhere you go?
Well, I don't think it changes that much. I mean, I don't think our message changes. I mean, it really doesn't matter, what we're doing. I mean, that's really the truth of it is. If we were doing really bad, and everybody would be saying a whole bunch about us as well, or if we're doing really well. I had a news guy tell me a long time ago, when I first started being head coach, I said, listen, we really don't care how you do. We just want it to be really good or really bad. Just don't be in the middle. And I'm good. And I'm like, what? And he was so right. And the message doesn't change. It's just like, don't worry about that. It doesn't really have any effect on us. We just need to keep paying attention to what we're doing right, what we're not doing right. And so, but the places that we go, might be a little more, when we go on the road, might be a little more energized. A few more people might show up. That part of thing. Playing away from home could get a little more difficult with noise and those things. And I hope, likewise, that when we're at home, it's a little more difficult than it's been, or it's close to the Stanford energy.
Why is it better to be really bad?
So you guys have more to write about. So are you kidding me? Are you setting me up with that question? Yeah, no, that's what it is. That's what he was telling me. I didn't get it either until it's like, no, we just want, we just need to either jump on, jump off, and have a lot to write about.
A few not near perfect things that happened in the game, especially in the first half, had a good chunk of, penalties. Yeah. What do you do? What's your typical routine when you review those? What do you look for? What do you deal with the team? Yeah. What do you ignore?
I mean, penalties are hard. I mean, it's in some ways a little bit like turnovers. It's something that you're talking about all the time, trying to work on. You show it to the kids. Yeah, no kidding. They know, they get it, and so it's, sometimes they're really hard to figure out. You get a face mask. I mean, guys playing hard and grabs a guy's face mask. Guys are coming back trying to help the quarterback have no sideline awareness. Those things are really, really frustrating. And we'll set up some drills to go through that. And then you have, I can't remember what else, then you get a block in the back on a punt return for a touchdown. So it's never any one thing. It's always a couple different things. And, hey, we're not doing, everybody gets it. But no, they don't get it because you just did it. And we've been so clean with penalties. So, we spend time, and we'll, some things we'll create drills for, and other things we'll, hopefully guys learn from as we go on.
How do you create drills so guys don't run out of bounds?
Yeah. I mean, that's really a good question, but we've already been talking about it, and we're going to do some drills. I mean, just so it's like we're spending time on this, and we're going to set them near the sideline, and we're going to set them in the goal. We're going to go into the end zone and set them on these places, and then start scrambling. And we're not sure what else to do. But I mean, it comes up a couple times. It seems like every year for us, and really frustrating, especially when you got a big play out of it. So we'll keep paying attention to that.
In the end result, when you watch the tape, though, how did you feel like the offense handled the noise and handled the atmosphere in terms of the ball?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot better than it was the last time we were on the road, for sure. And so we, not that we didn't spend as much time on it when we went to Arizona. We spent just as much time on it. But I think actually those guys making some errors the first time and really knowing what we're talking about helped us a little bit. But I thought I handled it better. And it is hard. I mean, I think even the first long pass that Jake threw, we substituted a guy, and there's just a little bit of confusion. And to even get him on the receiver to the other side was hard to do because they couldn't hear a thing.
Just going back to the final score and everything, and this is not an accusation on you at all, but do you believe in the idea of running up the score, or do you believe that there's a thought out there that people think that exists?
Well, I think when you see the score, you might think that if you didn't watch the game. And all I can say is I'm very aware of that. I was very aware of it late in the game. I don't think most coaches are into that at all. We've all been on the other side, and that's not a fun position to be into. And so you're going hard, and there comes a point where it's like, we're going to win the game. I mean, whether it's by 1 point or a bunch of points, I mean, when you feel like, okay, we're going to win this game, that's what you're just trying to do. That's how I think all the time. It's not about certainly scoring as many points as you can. That's never our thing.
Scoring teams 79-7 in the first quarter.
I'm into that.
There you go. It was an issue all last year. Is that something obviously you guys spend a lot of time on? Or is there something you can explain with that?
No, I mean, some of these things are just strange. I mean, whether it's turnovers, whether it's penalties, whether it's starting fast. I mean, those are all things that coaches are completely into. And I think I told you the other day, I mean, we've actually spoken in the reverse fashion about starting fast. We've told them, hey, if we don't start fast, don't worry about it. We'll get into a rhythm because they have started so fast every game that it's like this, and if it doesn't, what's going on? I mean, that's the big thing for our guys is that I think we have to plan on it not going all like this. That it's going to be down like it was in Arizona, that we might have to win another overtime game, that we might have to play 4 quarters where it's like, and catch up and all those things. That's what we have to be ready to, and expect that and not be panicked. And I think if we're not, then I think that there's, and as I know it's a fine line, but I think that there's some entitlement there that it's like, why is this happening to us? Why is this happening to us? Because everybody that we play has got good players and, that type of mindset. And our guys have been really good about that, and we talk to them about that, and we're prepared for, as much as we can prepare them for in terms of the different things that could happen. But that's what you worry about when you play a couple good games and for whatever reason they're not close. And then everybody tells you how great you are, and everybody's saying because the games, those games happen now and again, and we've had 2 of them that have happened maybe different than everybody thought they would. But like I said, we have 6 games left, and I think you just look at who's beating who. That's what we've been talking about. And so, we can kind of see what's coming.
Some comfortable wins now, more than not. Been able to play a lot of people as you want to, not being dictated. How do you feel about developing depth? Is that coming along? You feeling a little better than you did 6 games ago?
Well, I think it's always interesting. I think every year when you put in the guys that are backups, you always get very frustrated right away. It's just what it is. They're just not. That's why they're not starters right now. They haven't had the reps, they haven't had the experience, all those type of things. And we, you know, we had some other guys in, not everybody, we had some other guys in that game as well. And they were, you know, I think it was even our first defense that they were going right down the field, and we put some other guys in, they're going right down the field again, and you kind of going, what's going on here? But it's, you got to do it. You know, it's important to those guys. It's important to your program because eventually they're going to be in there, maybe not all together. I think when they all go in together, that's when it kind of gets frustrating at times for everybody, even them, seeing the ball be moved down the field, or, you know, you think you have a play on offense or you jump off sides, or, you know, you get hit in the backfield. All those things are really, really frustrating. But it seems like that's part of the course of growing.
The conversation like with Jake about the finger pointing across the goal line.
There wasn't really a lot of conversation. I mean, yeah, I think it surprised him, you know. Emotions go up, decision making goes down. We say that all the time, and it's an emotional game and all those things. And so, yeah, I mean, there's not really a whole lot to talk about about that, you know. I mean, things happen on the field, and he's a great kid, and all those type of things, and yeah.
I assume with a guy like that, if he says, "Hey, it'll never happen again," that's pretty easy to believe. A kid like that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what you think.
Chris, can you talk about the defensive tackles and those guys and what they mean to your entire defense?
Our D tackles, our inside guys, yeah, they're you know, those are pretty stout guys. That when they play at a consistent level, you know, we have such high expectations for those guys that sometimes when they're getting double teamed and getting blocked, you know, we'll be saying, what is going on? And it's two big guys on one guy. But you know, I think our defense starts with that D line, and we have some, you know, really good tacklers at linebacker and in the secondary. But those guys got to first and foremost do their job and cause some havoc up front. And when they did, it makes those other guys really be able to play fast. And for the most part, you know, they played really consistent up there. And, you know, that's a good place to start.
Jake is starting to get mentioned in some Heisman talk. How do you feel about that? Do you think that's warranted?
Well, what I think about that is I think that thing always goes, you know, that whatever that award is, I always think it goes to one of the best teams in the country, to the guy that's the marquee guy that's playing the best. And so our team's playing good, and he's playing at a high level. But do I think it's, what was your question? Warranted? No, I think it's so early. I mean, I think it's so early for all this stuff. You guys already know I'm going to say that. You know, I mean, I just think there's so much football left to be played, and for all this different stuff. But I think the good thing is that, you know, our team's playing well, and he's playing well without question. And so those are, you know, I guess what they say, good problems to have.
You might give me the same answer, but before the season, when you were asked about like the preseason hype and expectations and rankings, you had said to ask you after week 6.
Yeah.
So are you the number 5 team in the country?
I have no idea what that means. What I know is, and that's legit. And so, you know, before that season, we hadn't done anything. We hadn't played anybody for this year or anything. So that's the stuff that is like, I mean, I didn't get that at all. But since then, in these 6 games, you know, our guys have played well, and they played hard, and they've executed at a good level. And so, you know, for people to say, hey, this is a good team, that's completely legit up to this point, for sure. Now, rankings and all that, I mean, you know how much they're going to change from right now to 6 weeks from now. We kind of all know that. And so that's why it's like, let's just stay the course, one game at a time, and see what happens.
One of the unique things, last 2 games, but especially this other game, didn't see a whole lot of momentum shift. Even you as a coach may have, but boy, it looked pretty consistent for the whole. And you've coached a lot of games. That's pretty unusual in football, period, right? Game of big plays and everything. What's causing that? That's a good thing. What's causing that?
Well, I think the one thing is we've started fast and we've gotten a lead. So there has been a little bit of momentum coming back the other way, but before things have happened to really change the momentum, for the most part, we've had decent leads. I mean, you can feel the momentum's back and forth at Arizona. There wasn't a big lead there, and then we're behind. And I mean, we were behind right from the start, I think. And so when the game stays tight, any big play is a momentum swing. When the game's not so tight, big plays, it's not necessarily a momentum swing. You got to make, you got to score some points, and so I think that's probably the one reason that maybe we haven't felt it quite as much. But there's always going to be those momentum swings, and certainly in close games.
And you haven't given up very many big plays at all in the last couple of years.
Yeah, and that always helps. I mean, that always gives, you always feel, a lot better about things when you feel like, hey, our defense can really, if you can get a lead and then your defense can continue to play at a good level. But, I think we're completely prepared. We will be prepared that, we're going to play in close, hard-fought games. And that's what we want to do. And that's what we want to pride ourselves on, that we can play in those games and grind it out when we have to, because that's coming.
Chico, everything kind of good there?
It's no different than, after the game. We think he's going to play. And so we'll just see how it goes the next 2 weeks.
Feel like this is a good time, bad time for the Buys? Or party that wants to kind of keep going after what happened last week? Or does this team get a sense that they kind of need maybe a week off?
I mean, it's both. We have a good rhythm right now, and those kids got to have a really good rhythm of how it's gone. So now we're going to break all that. But I do think it's also not bad after 6 games to be able to give them some time off and not have to think about football for 24/7. And that's probably as much as anything. I hope to not see some of these guys around here.
How do you approach this week as far as what you put on their plate and how much you want them just to get away from all of it?
Yeah, and so we're going to practice on Wednesday and we're going to practice on Sunday. And then in between, they're going to do, they'll still lift and they'll do some running. Tons of time to watch tape and all those type of things, but hopefully they're not around as much, and that's kind of the purpose of that, is to try to kind of free their mind a little bit and really, really get going with school.
Your approach to bye weeks changed throughout your career in terms of how much you have them on the practice field, how much time you give off, and that kind of thing?
I think this might be a little bit different just in terms of you're always trying to factor the recruiting thing in and how does that work. And first and foremost, you're thinking about your guys and what's best for them. And then how do you maximize your recruiting time out and away? So I think it changes every year when the bye falls, where you are for sure. And I think you got to look at it and say, okay, where are we and what's going to be best for these guys?
Chris, when you watch Jake play, do you ever find yourself, now ignoring career accomplishments, but do you find yourself from a stylistic standpoint thinking that Jake reminds you of somebody? Is there anybody that you say, boy, he kind of plays like blank?
Well, everybody, they're all so unique. I don't like to, I really don't, because they are so unique. He's a pocket passer is what he is. And that's, that's primarily the guys that we've had in the past. I mean, we really like a guy that can run. I think the bonus with Jake is like you don't think of him as a runner, but he is really effective. I mean, he got hit one time on the blind side. I think he must have seen him or felt him for some reason, because the guy came from the blind side, didn't sack him, he got out of there, and I can't remember if he threw it away or scrambled or whatever. But he does a lot of that. I mean, he's just really, so he really is, he's a sneaky, effective runner. And so he's much more mobile and effective than I probably thought he was going to be, because you didn't see a bunch of that on tape in high school. Didn't need to. And, I think when you look at college football, all these quarterbacks that are really effective are guys that do run. And the really, most of these guys are dual threat guys, which he's not, but he kind of is, because of what we ask him to do and when we need him to get yards. So he's kind of unique in his own way there. But I just, we always just, we need a passer. We need a guy that can it's just, as much as we'd like to say, okay, yeah, we could run and we can do all these different runs and all that stuff, at the end of the day, we're going to come back, we want to complete passes. And if the guy can't run, that's going to hurt us a little bit, but we need a guy that can complete passes.
Is he surprising you at all in the way he's playing? I mean, just accuracy-wise and everything, the whole package. I mean, obviously you thought you were getting a great player when you signed him, but is he even surprising you a little bit?
Yeah, I don't think we're surprised. I don't know. I mean, I think our expectations for our guys, whether it's the quarterback or whatever, we just feel like we know what it should look like. And that's just like what we expect. And when it's not right, we're all like, what? And he'll look, even he'll look back, and I just got to turn away sometimes, because I think when he doesn't make a play, and it could be even our secondary, when they miss a tackle or somebody pops free, that's got a lot of, and it's like, how does that happen? I mean,
in that regard, the secondary, the first 2 Oregon touchdowns, it looks like guys were kind of lost a little bit. Benoit and Brooks James in the end zone, guys are kind of wide open.
Yeah. Well, and so what happens is when a quarterback extends the play, and bad things happen for a defense, for sure. I mean, bad things happen when Jake hangs onto the ball and creates a little time, and bad things happen to our guys. You lose them because you're not sure the guy's looking around. Is he going to run? Is he not? And all of a sudden the guy slides over, and then there he is standing 5 yards away. So we got to do, we practice scrambling and throwing. We practice scrambling, trying to cover, and we need to do more of it.
Carroll was raving about you after you guys beat Stanford. Have you heard much from him? Has he contacted you at all?
No, and so, I don't think many coaches talk during the season. But those guys they've been awesome to us. I mean, for us to go over there when they're in their spring ball, when ours is over, they start a little bit usually earlier than us, and to go over, and they've been tremendous, and they're great guys, and obviously the best in the business, and so our guys really like to go over there.
What are one aspect as a coach that you look at and learn from it and model?
Yeah, I think that I think you just break it down. What they do on defense is unique, and I think what we do in defense is unique in terms of, in a lot of ways they keep it very simple, and they just play good, and their guys play fast, and they know what they're doing. I think that they've been creative with Russell Wilson, different than a lot of the pro teams do, and I think they're unique there. And certainly Pete Carroll, just his philosophy on what their culture's all about and how he thinks is different than most. And so I've really enjoyed, hearing those messages and try to incorporate certain things that you think fits the things you do.
This program hasn't had an offensive lineman in the top tier in a number of years, all conference level.
Yeah.
Is that a function of an absence of premium linemen? A lot of programs have lamented that the linemen, compared to 10 or 12 years ago, just aren't around. Or is that something that you guys try to coach up because you've got a group that works now?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about that in the past. I really don't. I've heard that before, and I'm like, what? I don't get that. I mean, I just don't know what the reasons are. I know this, is that we have a really good offensive line coach that develops guys as good as anyone I've been around. And when we were over, at Boise, and so many of these guys were recruited by nobody, and a lot of these guys have played in the NFL. And so I know this, we're going to have all-league linemen, and we're going to have guys playing in the NFL for sure.
One area last year that, in the view of some, was somewhat disappointing, made some changes, and that's the receiving corps in general. You got John Ross back, but besides that, can you talk about, it appears to be more of a strength this year. Last year there were questions.
A couple things. It's nice having John Ross back. I mean, let's not underestimate that. And, I think Dante Pettis has done a really nice job of taking the next step with his game. I think some of those other guys, Andre Bocelli and Quentin Pounds, who didn't play last year, are getting it figured out. Aaron Fuller, as a true freshman, is doing a good job. And I do think that Bush Hamden coaches those guys awesome, in an awesome way. I really do. I mean, I think that they know what they're doing for the most part. And I think it's just a combination of a lot of things, starting with what I said, and then Jake knows, he's doing a better job with where to go with the ball, and he's throwing a little more accurate. And I think all those things just kind of add up that they're working well together.
There's been Coach Smith talked about the balance between passing and running, trying to keep defenses guessing. Can the same thing happen on defense when you guys aren't blitzing? And yet sometimes when you do, can it have an effect where now all of a sudden you turn the tables on the offense and have them a little bit more on the ropes? I mean, have you been able to use that as an advantage?
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing is, is always to have some sort of unpredictability on both sides. I think we're going to always need the blitz, and I think that helps us now. But it's that cat and mouse game of, how much do we need to blitz, and do we need to blitz? And it's always nice to have more guys covering when you can get to the quarterback with less guys. Kind of going back to the D tackle thing, when those linemen are pushing it and we don't need to bring extra guys, that's fine. But still, even if we don't need to, we may still do that just to give different looks and different pressures and have them to figure different things out so they can't completely dial us up. I think we're always doing that on all sides of the ball.
And you talked about how difficult the defensive coordinator's job is with the multiplicity of offenses. With you guys just having your base four there and being able to do a lot with them, has that, at least on tape, has that shown up to be kind of a great equalizer?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, and I've said this, if you don't have players, it just doesn't matter, If you don't, you can be the greatest coach ever, and if you don't have good players to go with that, you're going to get exposed. You're going to, it's like, what are these guys doing? Well, this guy's getting beat pretty bad, or this guy's not. This guy's dominating that guy. And so when you have good players and you couple them with good coaches, pretty good things can happen. And, we have good players. And I think we have good coaches too. I think those guys have done a great job, and in such a unique way because I think they've simplified things on all three phases for our guys, so they can play fast and so they understand. But yet there's enough there that we're not completely predictable. But our coaches be the first to tell you. Our hats off to the players. Those guys are good players and they play hard.
About the Heisman stuff for Jake. Is there ever a moment during the season when you feel as a coach it's appropriate to promote a guy for something like that, or you kind of feel like, hey, that's just for me to step back and let somebody else take care of it?
I think I don't think there's any promoting needs to even kind of go on anywhere. I think if you're doing that, we're living 20 years ago. You guys come to us with stats and go, did you know that on third down and between 12 and 13, third and 12 and 13, that he's completing 68% of his passes against blitz? And then, that's really how it is. The old days when it's like, you got to send stuff out. Hey, do you guys know his stats are this good? Oh yeah, so that's so long and over. There's no promoting that at all. You guys promote it. The second thing I think about that is, I always think it's weird when all these things, awards, medals, trophies are awarded before the season's done. Let everybody play. Let it play the bowl games. Let's just get through that. And why we don't do that for everything, I don't know. I guess it's time for basketball, I guess. But that's what I think. When it's done early and talking about it, game 6 or even game 11, and then, and then you see a guy go to a bowl game and it's like, oh, they really shut him down, and this guy actually. That's my 2 cents on that.
And obviously, even a coach, you think they should go for the Heisman after the Bulls are over?
I think let everybody play.
All right, last one for you. Chris, the last time Washington beat Oregon in Autzen, a lot of the players celebrated on the O. Some thought it was excessive in that regard. By contrast, the other day, you went over, you had a salute to your fans, you went in the locker room. Mm-hmm. Was that by design? Is that something that you talk about with your players? Like, hey, this is how we're going to conduct ourselves, or is that something that you don't really bother yourself?
Sometimes we talk about that stuff. We talk about how to conduct ourselves a lot. Yeah. The specifics, it just depends on situation. I was proud of our guys. I didn't say anything, and I purposely didn't say anything because I just wanted to see if they would just do this thing. And I really knew they would. I would have been really surprised had they just not walked across this field, shook their hands, and just, act like they know how to win and move on. So, yeah.
Bowl game subject, I talked to the Heart of Dallas Bowl this morning. They said they'd love to have you back if you'd accept right away. How reflective is it that the notion of bowl eligibility isn't even on anybody's radar screen this year, and yet you're bowl eligible when you win the other night?
Yeah. I really hadn't even thought of that, to tell you the truth, until you brought that up. It was appropriate last year because we were in such a situation that I think, first and foremost, everybody's trying to get to a bowl to, keep playing and all those things. And we got ourselves into a situation where we had to win our last 3 to get that done. And that was a real important thing to us last year at that time. And so each year, everything's a little bit different. And, I go back to that time that I think that was such an important time. I told our team the other day, one of my favorite times with these guys is that period. The urgency that they had for everything that they did and practice and played in the games when it was up and down. And, we played some really good teams that were good teams, and we were right there, but we just couldn't execute well enough. And for those guys to not ever point fingers, to keep fighting, and then to finish like we did, that was a good situation. That was fun to be part of coaching those guys. And the nice thing is they kind of picked up where they left off and have just kept progressing. But I think that was an important time for us. And I think those kids feel that and know that. And I bring that up. I brought that up yesterday, and I bring that up all the time. It's like that's what it needs to be like no matter what our record is. We have to feel like that. Okay. Thank you.